Thank you for your interest in our 2021 Southwestern Psychological Association Convention talk, titled Science-Based Higher and Virtual Education Decreases Sexual Prejudices and Discrimination. My name is Christelle Sefri, one of the scientists on this research study. I will be your narrator for this video. The other scientists contributing to this research are Diane Gogan, Ashley Richardson, Emmett Falk, and Dr. Don Lucas. We conducted this study in our laboratories at Northwest Vista College in San Antonio, Texas. Let me begin by asking you a question. What do the following 5 statements about sexuality have in common? When given a choice, people most accurately describe their gender in one of 2 categories. A woman's hymen determines her virginity. For most people, sexual orientation is a choice. Reproduction is the main purpose people report for why they engage in sexual intercourse. Jesus wrote, "Sex should only be between a man and a woman." Give up? What these statements have in common is they are all sexual myths. None of these statements are true. Take, for example, the sexual myth of a woman's hymen determining her virginity. The hymen is a thin, fleshy tissue, sometimes surrounding and sometimes partially covering the introitus of the vagina. And as far as function is concerned, the hymen has no known psychological or biological purpose. It is not associated with pleasure, nor is it associated with reproduction. And, for at least 5 reasons, it is impossible to reliably determine if a female is a virgin based upon examining her hymen. Reason number 1. The hymen is stretchy and flexible. Therefore, it does not necessarily tear or even change in size, shape, or form with penile penetration. Number 2. The hymen's size, shape, and form differ from one female to the next. Therefore, there is no standard hymen or non-virgin hymen. Number 3. The hymen's size, shape, and form naturally change with age and development, having nothing to do with sexual intercourse. Number 4. The hymen's size, shape, and form change from washing, walking, athletics, self-exploration, tampons, and gynecological exams, having nothing to do with sexual intercourse. And reason number 5. Not all females are born with a hymen. Now, there's a scientifically proven method to determine whether a female has had vaginal intercourse. It is called asking her. Unfortunately, most people believe in sexual myths. This is especially unfortunate because not only does believing in sexual myths shows a person's ignorance, this ignorance often leads to sexual prejudices and discrimination. For example, if a person believes the sexual myth of masturbating negatively affecting psychological and physiological well-being, then they may feel guilty about themselves masturbating and judge others for doing so. Which brings me to the purpose of this study. At the 2019 annual meeting of the Southwestern Psychological Association, we shared a solution to the problem of people believing in sexual myths. The solution is science-based sex education, which decreases the chances of people believing in sexual myths. The present study replicates our 2019 study by retesting whether science-based sex education decreases the chances of a person believing in sexual myths. And the present study extends our 2019 study by testing whether science-based sex education decreases the chances of a person holding sexual prejudices and acting in sexually discriminatory ways. We tested these 3 research questions on 86 students from 3 different colleges taking human sexuality courses, and 44 people recruited by the experimenters. The 86 students served in the higher education condition, and the 44 people recruited by the experimenters served in the virtual education condition. The higher education condition required participants to complete a comprehensive, science-based, college-level human sexuality course. And the virtual education condition required participants to view 10 science-based sex education videos on a YouTube channel named 5MI Weekly. 39 of the higher education condition participants completed a sexual myth test, sexual prejudice test, and sexual discrimination test before and after completing their human sexuality courses. 47 higher education condition participants did not complete these tests after their human sexuality courses. 39 of the virtual education condition participants completed the sexual myth test, sexual prejudice test, and sexual discrimination test before and after watching the 10 videos on the YouTube channel 5MI Weekly. 5 virtual education condition participants did not complete the test after watching these videos. The sexual myth test has 35 true or myth questions about sex. For example, one of its true questions about sex is, as compared to single adults, married adults generally are having more sex. And one of its myth questions about sex is, children are most likely to be sexually abused by strangers. Scores on the sexual myth test range from 0 to 35, with higher scores being equal to believing in less sexual myths. The sexual prejudice test has participants rating their feelings about 10 sexual situations on a 5-point Likert scale, from -2 equaling, I have a lot of negative feelings about this situation, to +2 meaning, I have a lot of positive feelings about this situation. For example, one of these 10 situations is, when I think about elderly people having sex, it makes me feel... The sexual prejudice test ranges from -20 to +20, with lower scores equaling negative feelings about sexuality and higher scores equaling positive feelings about sexuality. The sexual discrimination test has participants choosing one of 5 answers about how they would behave in 5 stories about sexuality. For example, one of the 5 stories is, you are a member of human resources and have 3 applicants for a job at your company. Your 3 applicants have bachelor's degrees and between 2 and 4 years of work experience. One applicant identifies as a man, one identifies as a transgender woman, and one has chosen not to identify their gender. Who do you hire? A, the man, B, the transgender woman, C, hire the person who did not give their gender, D, do not hire any of them, or E, hire the one with the most work experience. The sexual discrimination test ranges from -5 to +10, with 0 being equal to no sexual discrimination, and negative and positive scores equaling reverse and non-reverse sexual discrimination, respectively. The higher education condition participants' mean percentage of correct answers on the sexual myth test before their human sexuality courses was significantly less than their percentage of correct answers after their human sexuality courses. The virtual education condition participants' mean percentage of correct answers on the sexual myth test before watching the 10 5MI weekly videos was significantly less than their percentage of correct answers after watching the videos. The higher education participants' mean score on the sexual prejudice test before their human sexuality courses was significantly less than their mean score after their human sexuality courses. The virtual education participants' mean score on the sexual prejudice test before watching the 10 5MI weekly videos was not significantly different from their mean score after watching the videos. The higher education participants' mean score on the sexual discrimination test before their human sexuality courses was significantly greater than their mean score after their human sexuality courses. The virtual education participants' mean score on the sexual discrimination test before watching the 10 5MI weekly videos approached being significantly greater than their mean score after watching the videos. The present study found completing a comprehensive, science-based college-level human sexuality course significantly decreases the chances of people believing in sexual myths, having negative feelings about sexuality, and behaving in sexually discriminatory ways. The present study also found that watching science-based sex education videos significantly decreases the chances of people believing in sexual myths, and potentially behaving in sexually discriminatory ways. The present results are evidence for science-based sex education having benefits beyond increasing a person's sexual knowledge base. They include decreasing the chances of a person making stereotypes, holding prejudices, and acting discriminatory. Lastly, the present study demonstrated these broad benefits of science-based sex education may not only be gotten from the classroom, but also a YouTube channel composed of science-based human sexuality educational videos. Thank you for your time and interest in our research. If you have any comments or questions about this study, then please do not hesitate in emailing Professor Don Lucas at dlucas@alamo.edu.